Greetings, Terrans, or should I say humans, as Terrans refer to humans in the mirror universe, but we are in the prime universe, or are we not? That's a mystery. I'm Mr. Smock, back this time for a season finale review of Star Trek Discovery. Together with me once again is Mr. Thomas and Mr. Engineer, with their thoughts on what is the whole entire season of Star Trek Discovery. So we've just watched the final episode, Will You Take My Hand? What are your impressions of the final episode? Is it a suitable ending for the season finale?
What we saw is that at the end of the episodes is actually the characters grew, especially Michael Burnham, right? To tell you the truth, the last few episodes was where things picked up for me because of Mirror Universe. Right?
After the season break?
Yes, that's the one. So the final thought is actually it's starting to pick up. It's getting much better. Something along to the lines that which I like to enjoy on, right? As we said earlier, it might not be actual Trek, but it is Star Trek after all.
The premise of the story is certainly very interesting because nothing is as it seems, and sure enough, when the Mirror Universe arc came about, you'll see a different side to a lot of the characters that we thought that we know them quite well in the first half of the season, but clearly, as you can see, at a later point in time, they all exhibit more about themselves. It may not be an ideal character that some of us actually thought of them as they are, but ultimately, like what Mr. Engineer here has said, all of them has grown as characters, and for Michael especially, because towards the end it's more like coming to a full circle for her.
So that would say our impressions of what is the final episode. Again, it's the title, Will You Take My Hand? I feels that you both are trying to say it in non-spoilery fashion.
Correct.
Alright, let's continue discussion and go into the spoilery territory. So here warning goes, do not continue watching this video if you have not watched the final episode yet. So, the Vulcan's impression that with so much that has happened and what was set up to have happened in this final episode from the penultimate episode, it might seem underwhelming in the ending or in the scenario which wraps up the season-long story arc in a way almost very quickly. Unexpectedly, yes. Not quite the explosive ending that we have seen many times in this series. But I would say the underlying message of how it was resolved and with our principal cast sticking to Starfleet ideals, I think that is the main message.
Honestly speaking, I guess probably one of the reasons why the story may seem underwhelming to maybe to some of the newer Trek fans is probably because having been like, we are in an era where everything is all bang bang with lots of actions and tons of special effects and all. I would guess I would think that the ending might seem like what Smock here will say, a bit on the underwhelming side. But you have to understand that the show sets out to showcase a story of what would happen if Starfleet really goes to the point of no return, in which they actually go beyond their so-called their ideals, and what the characters actually grew and in the end embraced and literally became the idealistic things that that what makes Starfleet actually is. Because towards the end of this season, you can see quite a few of the characters in the show going into literally this point of no return. Like the Starfleet, they decided to choose genocide of the enemy that they are facing. They're literally for the sake of survival, and then it's
underwhelming as it seems. That formula, if we revert to traditional Trek, which goes back to the original series as well as the Next Generation and some of the other iterations, it's a very Star Trek conclusion to an episode, is it not?
yes.
I would say it's more like a proper ending, because it starts with the Next Generations. As far as I know, it's always the cliffhanger going to the next one. And for this final episode, for me, it's definitely a cliffhanger, and it's so beautiful, that shit.
I am sure you are talking about that final scene whereby
Yes.
we are seeing the USS Enterprise 1701.
Yes.
Am I correct? And you have noted it was somewhat different from what we have seen in the original series.
Correct. Imagine what it would look like if Gene Roddenberry continued with the Enterprise, as in like what he wanted with Phase 2, right? But he added in the most of the elements which we are very familiar with on the original TOS ship. And it's so nice. It's so nice. I can hear that.
Yes. For me personally, I also was quite happy and excited to see the presence of the USS Enterprise at the end of the episode. However, the TV fan in me will go, what's going on, and what's going to, what is going to happen, and the presence of the ship alone brings a lot of questions, and then I think a lot of fans are now busily discussing among themselves as to what.
But do either of you have any reservations that perhaps that is considered sacred territory and they perhaps should not have tread on it? Noting, of course, this is actually, suppose the events of Star Trek Discovery takes place 10 years before the original series. A year has passed in a season, so that's sort of 9 years, and we have the mention of Captain Christopher Pike, which is known to be the preceding captain to Kirk. And what would this entail? What would we expect? Will it look like the bridge as seen in the TOS saga? Will they be in red shirts, gold shirts, yet blue shirts?
You have to understand this, right? Before J.J. Abrams come in, right? Everything is sacred, is followed, everything is perfect. But once J.J. Abrams comes in with a story about us, given this alternative timeline, things are going to be whack. Very, very different now. So that is why we got fans so excited looking at Captain Pike's ship. It should not be there. By right, it shouldn't be there at all. But it's there. So we are going nuts, and I'm very excited about that. So
does it bring to question then, is this actually the prime timeline, or it is something else?
It could be something else depending on the writers, because so far the story on the Mirror Universe looks good, right? With the subtle hints of who is Lokar actually, but you never know. It could be a parallel universe to the actual prime universe. Another thing.
I guess this actually sums up how some of the fans may feel about the new series in general. Particularly in that the difference between Discovery and the earlier series, where most of the episodes in the past is a past series of the franchise. They were all episodic. The stories and all, like most of them quickly resolved in 1 or 2 episodes and stuff. But again, this Discovery actually continues this their own so-called way of doing things, in which the story continues to flow. There are many paths that goes on from this point onwards, and what will happen to Discovery, and the story doesn't actually end in just 1 or 2 episodes and then wraps up and then come with a new episode. It's a story that continues grows. The characters grows along with the story as well. So I would say that despite the seemingly underwhelming tone of this episode, I'm still looking very much forward to what's season 2 going to bring to us.
But there is one worry that I have, right? What makes the Discovery so special was actually the spore drive, right? But if you go back to the later tracks, like Captain Kirk and all, there's no mention of that. So I'm interested in see how they're going to solve that problem, because if they don't, in season 2, it will become a baggage to them. Because without a spore drive, Discovery is nothing special.
You recall in the timeline of the Prime Universe, the original series movie, Star Trek 3, there's this talk about this device called the Transwarp Drive, which was a device plot of the test bed being the USS Excelsior, but subsequently abandoned because it simply did not work and therefore mothballed into one of those great scientific failures, which need not be mentioned much again. Although it does look like the spore drive did work, it did transport them into Kronos and presumably out. They did not burst through the crust of the planet and fly out into space. They have a planet which seems to be breeding spores, pollinizing spores.
Yeah.
Therefore, shall we say, the field still exists. So the choice not to use it is indeed more relating to the way that it has to affect Stamets, you think? Not so much that the technology or the fields to say it's not available, it's a matter of principle.
Of course, the storyline for this the spores, right? I mean, I personally felt that because the technology has been proven, so Starfleet at this point is still considering whether they want to expand on the usage. And then, as usual, one of the common plot line is what happens if someone were to, like the mirror universe Stamets tries to abuse it for their own gains. So hopefully season 2 will explore a bit onto that. Maybe throw in a few side story or two to emphasize how much potential the spores can give to him and to Starfleet, and what would happen if someone were to go the wrong way, you know what I mean.
And lastly, regarding the spore, in the previous episode, there was one special effect where part of the spore actually landed on Tilly's shoulder, right? Nobody realized what is going to happen. It could be a new story. But one thing is, before you guys start to watch the last episode, go in a group. It's more fun because the ending of that, they're going to a planet to find a specific captain for the ship. You can all start guessing who will be the next captain of Discovery.
So what would be the wish list by you two for this captain? Would they be seriously consider that Prime Universe Lorca returns and that's the Captain of Discovery? I hope not.
I'm used to
what has happened with Giorgio, so
yeah, I'm used to seeing Lorca. Lucius Malfoy, or how you want to know him, but he's good in this. I want to see him again. It might not be the Mirror Universe Lorca and how he acts it, right? But I just hope he's there. He might be a better captain.
For me, I would say that this theory may not be. I'm not sure whether anyone is actually discussing on this possibility, but what happens if the captain is someone's half brother?
A science officer?
Yes, a certain science officer from the original series. I would say that what actually led credence to my theory would probably be the fact that because Sarek needs to go back to Vulcan on the Discovery to pick up a new captain, and not much clues is given apart from that. So, what about you, Smock? What do you think?
Yeah.
Well, we could speculate that our half Vulcan kinsman, Mr. Spock, does going to reappear. I think it would be not going well with bringing back a major character from, say, in this case, the same universe, and planting as a major cast in another series. Producers would have some fun and to give some fan service in perhaps a cameo of Commander Smock at some time. But noting that it is Commander Smock and it's not Captain Smock, and the timeline of the original series, Smock is first officer, not captain. So it would possibly be another candidate. I do not expect that the producers would pull out somebody from the original series, because you're playing with characters who've already existed, and that could lead to much criticism.
Yeah, I would think that there will be some mixed feelings, or a lot of mixed feelings, depending on how the fans would take the news, and whoever's being casted as Spock, if he's going to show up in the first year. Yeah. So.
But also noting at this timeline, it is now 9 years before the events of the original series. Smock may be in fact still be in the time of Starfleet Academy, or not quite up to how you see him as in the original series. But 9 years really is not that far a time to, I dare say, cover things up. Remember that this Star Trek Discovery is the second prequel series, the first prequel series for Star Trek Enterprise, which takes place 100 years before the events of the original series. So in that 100 years, a lot of things could have happened, and how it leads to look which transitions to what you see in the original series. Now we have a span of just 9 years. And what happened, it's been a year of a very devastating war which near cripples the Federation. And if you could estimate what would you do after you've had the crippling war, you would basically rebuild your military base, reinforce your borders, and now that of course the Klingons are unified once again, there's no guarantee that they will not just now come under one voice and reinstate their strength to its neighbors. I mean, we may not have seen, of course, there should have been detailed discussions with L'Rell, what is her plans and so forth, before handing over, shall we say, the planet bomb.
Yeah.
But we know L'Rell that is pretty much driven by her vision of T'Kuvma uniting the Klingon people. And yes, they're united, but under what goal or direction? She's just keeping them together under threat of destruction. Ultimately, the Empire has to evolve beyond that. And despite that, after one whole season, we have not actually encountered why Klingons look like Nosferatu, and how does that going to link with the established look in the original series, as well as that of the Next Generation and the Cradle Ridges. So let's wrap up in overall general impressions or comments on how Star Trek Discovery is viewed for this entirety in the season. Mr. Engineer, would you like to add anything into your remarks on how would you say summarize this season to someone who may not yet have watched and established an opinion about it?
Okay, for someone new, well, Star Trek will be something that just a typical sci-fi movies or whatever. But once you look into the story, you will still realize that this is actually an adventure where the character grows, right? Just like when we look at Michael Burnham, she's just an officer, right? She does things on her own emotions and her own calculations. But coming to the end of the episode, she has grown. She knows what Starfleet is all about. So look from that's what is good, right? And another one for Captain Jojo, right? Visit Langkawi, please.
As a cultural officer based in Malaysia, it was pleasing to have seen that actual mention in the Star Trek episode. This is in fact not the first time, but it was a double mention, and that may well be the first. I believe in the previous series, northern city of Kota Baru was mentioned.
Yeah, Enterprise.
If I were to be put in a situation where I try to explain what this show is to a person who has never watched Star Trek before, I would say that the Star Trek Discovery, right, is a story that's not just about the sci-fi thing. I mean, you know, a lot of people, you know, nowadays grew up, you know, with their impression of sci-fi is all like a lot of lasers firing at each other, you know, bad guys versus good guys and stuff. Star Trek is more than that. It is a story about basically the people in the story, that how they grew, their successes, their failures, their emotions, and how the story actually evolved, like, you know, and how the characters all interact with each other. It is not just, you know, a storyline is, you know, the good guy will win the bad. They try to tell you that, you know, you may not be perfect as a person, but you could strive to live an ideal life.
Although I am from Vulcan, I am indeed a Trekkie and have spent many hundreds of hours or thousands of hours watching Star Trek programming. This series did not start with very high expectations. This production did sound much troubled, and it was seen to have been delayed for almost a year, and the exit of Brian Fuller as a series showrunner did not support very well. But having watched the entire season of 15 episodes, I think it comes to the conclusion that thank the gods of logic that it did not suck. And it indeed did a lot of surprising turns and reinterpretations of the Star Trek universe, which should relate more to the modern audience. Thank you for watching up till this far, and as a reward for that, we are giving away a Netflix goodie bag. It comes with a notepad and a 3-month complimentary subscription, which allows you to access all over 700 episodes of Star Trek, plus the movies. And if you have not even started watching Star Trek Discovery yet, you are most welcome to binge watch all 15 episodes during this holiday festive period. Unfortunately, we cannot claim that this is a very sci-fi Star Trek-ish bag, but you know, Netflix does cater to all audiences, and I'm sure some members of the audience do enjoy romance, or documentaries, or comedies,
or piece of life.
So for the chance to win this tote bag together with the 3-month subscription, please share this video, say something nice about Star Trek Discovery, and would you like to see more of Mr. Engineer, Mr. Thomas, and Mr. Smock? You may please feel welcome to gratify us, and we may just choose you to win this tote bag and 3-month subscription. So look forward to meeting up with Mr. Engineer and Mr. Thomas once again, Season 2, which we expect will be towards the end of this year. Season 1 launched in September 2017, so we should expect Season 2 to launch in September this year.
Wow.
It may feel like a very long wait, but that's what you shall use your Netflix subscription, or to watch all those 700 episodes of Star Trek. Even if you do watch one a day, you will not finish all before September. So to all you Terrans, humans, peace and long life, live long and prosper.